Okay, today's video, I am going to read you the latest Week in Ethereum news, which came out yesterday, and minimal annotations. We'll see how it goes. This is an experiment. In my head, I committed to doing 2 weeks of these daily videos and then reevaluate and see what kind of traction it has. So today's will be reading a newsletter. So in the ETH1 camp, we had the latest TurboGeth alpha release, which is notable because it got current state to under 9 gigs. We had the notes from the latest stateless Ethereum call, which is the attempt to do a lot of things like code Merkleization and account abstraction and adding witnesses in order to make the Ethereum ETH1 stateless, as in stateless clients. Last Friday was the core dev call, and there were notes. There is Vitalik's EIP to increase the gas price for S-load to 2300, and the call family in the X star family to 2500, as well as balance to 2500. There is also an exploration of doing fast crypto in the EVM called the EVM 384, which is basically an attempt to do away with precompiles and instead be able to do it all in the EVM. Similar to that, more on the lines of precompiles, EIP 266 had some benchmarking. And then in the famous fee market change with half of it being burned, there is EIP 1559. Micah Zoltu had a piece on how it decreases the risk of 51% attacks. And Tim Roughgarden was contracted to simulate EIP 1559 and as well as Dan Finley's escalator algorithm proposal. And he is, of course, one of the leaders in mechanism design. If I recall correctly, he's a professor at Columbia. ETH2. This week, the Medallia testnet recovered from a catastrophic event. If you watched my video from a couple days ago, then you already know about that. Prismatic and Ben Edgington both did write-ups of the event. And Carl Beekhuizen wrote on the Ethereum.org blog about how client diversity matters. Ben Edgington's latest What's New in ETH2. There was a beacon fuzz update from Sigma Prime, so they have a differential fuzzer that is possible for you to run because it's Dockerized, where you can help fuzz the ETH2 clients and see if you can find any bugs. We've already found 4. That is the community. And then there were Lighthouse, Lodestar, and Nimbus updates, like these 3 clients. So Lighthouse is the Rust client, and they're really trying to get their attestation inclusion up to 100%. Lodestar is the JavaScript client, and it was about launching Medallia and how they didn't quite make it, and also about how they're prototyping the Light client, which will be a browser-ready client. And Nimbus, of course, is basically trying to fix their performance and stability issues and get it to be mainnet worthy. There was a tutorial to using Proto's Rumor tool for client debugging. Alex Stokes had an ETH2 clock. Proto put a list together of ETH2 tooling. And of course, there was the latest ETH2 call last Thursday, and there were notes from Ben and Mami. And Zengo had a blog post about their initial results from VDF design and cryptanalysis. Layer 2, USDT Tether is live on OMG. Golem is picked ZK Sync, or Matter Labs is their rollup provider. DYDX is going to do a Starkware rollup, and they're aiming at Q4. This newsletter was sponsored by Chainlink, and they wanted to plug the Smart Contract Summit, which is August 28th to 29th. So if you're interested, check that out. Now we're on the stuff for developers section. So Trail of Bits has a sort of a tutorial on testing your Solidity code with the Echidna fuzzer. I have no idea if I'm saying that right. In fact, I noticed a typo there. Oops. Samsun, who is now at Trail of Bits, finds an SNXA bug And if you know what that is, that's basically something somewhat similar to like YFI, but for synthetics. Open Zeppelin has upgrades plugins for Buildler and Truffle. Golem had an alpha release for devs that has its new Golem, and it has WASM and VM payloads. There was an article on dynamic value arrays in Solidity. There's for people new to Web3 development, it's Ethereum code is not a database. In other words, use events. And then Tenderly now has organizations, so you can debug and profile together. Moving on to the ecosystem subheading, MetaMask restricts commercial use forks with more than 10,000 users. I think it was pretty obvious that this was aimed at Brave, who had forked MetaMask and was using it themselves, like in a sort of white labeled thing. So MetaMask is now going to take back that with this new licensing. ENS had a couple links on getting your old ENS deposit back, as well as we're halfway through the period of the decaying price premium for expired ENS domains. And EF had a blog post on Beyond Just Grants as a means of ecosystem support. There was a piece on SAP.com about SAP integration with the ETH mainnet. AWS had a tutorial on minting tokens with Burner Factory and monitoring them with Block Scout. And the Block had a research report on central bank digital currencies. These last three were in the enterprise section. AppLayer, there's more than 10 billion USD on Ethereum. So it's actually probably closer to 11.3, maybe more today. And of course, 1 billion migrated from Tron to ETH. So I guess Tron stopped paying. I don't know. There's a primer on Synthetics Futures, which is going live soon. There's Yield Space, which comes out of Paradigm Incubation, which is an automated liquidity provider, but it uses time to maturity as an input because it's zero coupon bonds. So it's a pretty interesting project. Opium has some credit default swaps using Aave credit delegation. It's kind of cool to see money Legos working together. Speaking of that, Andre Cronje, I'm probably saying his name wrong, but YFI, YEarn is now going to do YInsure, and Arbol went live with a parametric rainfall insurance. There was also DeFi Safety that started this week, which was basically a score on process quality. So they don't audit the code, they audit the process. Basically, did you have an audit? Do you have tests available, et cetera, et cetera? It's a pretty interesting idea that, with a low lift look, like at a high level of how good their process was, you can have a decent idea of how good a score is. And, I have to say it basically corresponded to, intuition. So much for not many annotations. Oops. POAP, the proof of attendance protocol, is doing Merkle airdrops for the folks who did the Medasha testnet, the Medasha stakers, and they also have a tool that you can use to create raffles for POAP holders. Multis is doing an interesting way of having monthly recurring subscription fees by using Unlock Protocol, and Set Protocol has an article on yield farming with their V2. So in the tokens business regulation grab bag section, there is a framework for token value flows. There's a Siebes article on unbundling Uniswap. There is Coinbase's basically technical checklist for getting your token listed on Coinbase. There is a proof of personhood paper, so a review of Sybil resistance in the decentralized identity space. There was Hazu's article on YAM being a Nakamoto scheme, which I did my daily video on yesterday. Moving on to the general section, My Crypto had 10 steps to avoid getting hacked. I believe that was one of the top 5 things that got clicked. It's funny, there's nothing groundbreaking in there, but I knew that if I put it in there, it was probably going to get clicked. Binance collaborated with some police forces to thwart a ransomware ring. Professor Xi's Foundations of Distributed Consensus and Blockchains textbook is available for free. Technically, it's a draft. Brave has some research around basically doing Starks and confidential payments using Aztec on a Quorum POA sidechain, and they haven't committed to doing that for their token and all of the brave rewards, but they're clearly thinking about it. Sergio Damian Lerner had on Satoshi having an optimized miner that he didn't release publicly, so much for that pristine and perfect fair Bitcoin launch. And Vitalik had 2 articles. One was a philosophy of blockchain coordination. Then there was sort of an accompanying corollary X of N trust models in blockchains. And job listings. The main one this week is that my crypto is hiring front-end wizards, and of course Seller, my major sponsors, are all hiring Seller, TrailofBits, Chainlink, and 0x. Seller's looking for an Android developer. TrailofBits is looking for blockchain security engineers as well as some senior software engineers. Chainlink has 20 jobs available, like ecosystem marketer, head of growth, and 0x is looking for all sorts of devs. And that is it. So thank you for watching. I'll see you tomorrow.